Every man is born with potential, but only a few learn to nurture their own frame. The masculine frame is not an attitude, a posture, or a gaze. It is presence. It is that invisible force that is felt before you even speak. It is the internal structure that supports your every word, your every gesture, your every choice. The frame is the axis around which your life revolves. It is what maintains your balance when the world tries to push you off course. Without a frame, you are like a ship without a keel. You can have splendid sails, but the first storm capsizes you. The frame is not built with appearances, but with intention. It is maintained not with arrogance, but with calm. Every time you react to what surrounds you, you are giving away the frame. Every time you explain too much, seek approval, apologize for your nature, you are giving away power. The masculine frame is, ultimately, your non-negotiable identity. It is the invisible boundary between who you are and who the world wants you to become. We live in times when everything tries to break it. Relationships, work, social media, the constant pressure to prove something. Every day is a test. Every interaction is an attempt to shift you from your center. And those who don't have a solid frame give in. They bend to please. They mold themselves to be accepted. They adapt to the point of forgetting who they are. But the man with a stable frame doesn't bend. He observes. He doesn't chase. He walks ahead. He doesn't seek validation. He radiates it. The frame isn't rigidity. It's coherence. It's the line that unites your values, your energy, and your choices, so that no external pressure can knock you out of alignment. When the frame is solid, you don't have to command respect. You generate it. You don't have to ask for attention. You attract it. You don't have to explain who you are. You communicate it with your presence. It's a force that doesn't shout, but calms. It doesn't seduce, but magnetizes. It doesn't react, but influences. Every time a woman tests you, every time life challenges you, every time someone tries to drag you into its chaos, the test isn't on them. It's on you. The frame is what separates the man who responds from the man who reacts, the man who observes from the man who defends himself, the man who leads from the man who follows. Here's the secret. The frame isn't maintained only when everything is going well. The frame is only tested under pressure. It's easy to be centered when everything is calm. It's easy to be calm when no one challenges you. But the true frame is born in chaos. The moment you are provoked, misunderstood, ignored, tested, that's when who you really are is revealed. Because the frame isn't theory, it's controlled reaction. It's the moment the world is watching you and you choose not to move. The frame is your steady energy that says, you can change your tone, you can scream, you can walk away, but I remain who I am. It's the power that comes from not being reactive, because those who react lose control. He who maintains the frame controls everything. The frame is like a house built on deep foundations. You can change the furniture, but if the foundation is solid, the house will stay standing. The foundations of the frame are three: self-control, self-esteem, and consistency. Self-control is the foundation. If you don't know how to control your emotions, anyone can push you wherever they want. Self-esteem is the structure. If you don't know your worth, you'll end up adapting to the value others give you. Consistency is the roof. It protects everything you've built. Because an inconsistent man has no frame, only words. Every time you say one thing and do another, every time you give in for fear of losing, every time you push yourself to behave in a way that goes against your values, the frame cracks. And when the frame cracks, your energy changes. You are no longer the center. You become the periphery of your own world. The masculine frame is presence in chaos. It is quiet strength. It is the awareness that you don't have to react to everything. It's the emotional intelligence of those who know where to focus their attention. The frame is also your mental framework, what defines how you perceive yourself and the world. When it's solid, the world adapts to you. When it's fragile, you adapt to the world. And here lies the difference between those who guide reality and those who endure it. A man with a solid frame walks into a room and the energy shifts, not because he imposes, but because he stabilizes. His gaze, his calm, his voice convey confidence. Those who observe him feel regulated, as if everything becomes clearer simply by his presence. This is the invisible power that the frame bestows. But this power comes at a price. You must sacrifice the need to be understood, the desire to please, the temptation to react. The frame isn't nourished by words, but by discipline, by repeated, consistent, silent choices. Every day you don't let yourself be moved, every test you pass without giving in to neediness, every time you remain calm while others fret, your frame grows. And when the frame grows, everything grows. The respect you receive, the quality of the people you attract, the strength with which you face difficulties. A man without frames lives at the mercy of the world. A man with frames is the world that lives according to his calm. This is what the Stoic philosophers understood centuries ago. Epictetus said, "No one can harm you unless you allow it." And this is the perfect definition of frame, the ability to not let the world decide who you are. It's not indifference, it's mastery. When you possess the frame, you no longer have to demonstrate strength. Your calm demonstrates it for you. You no longer have to seek balance. You are it. And from that moment on, everything changes. Your voice becomes slower, your gaze steadier, your decisions more thoughtful, and life around you begins to align with that rhythm. Because reality always adapts to those who have more frames. It doesn't matter how beautiful, rich, or intelligent someone is. If they lose the frame, they lose respect, they lose power, they lose attraction. And it doesn't matter how simple or quiet you are. If you maintain the frame, you become magnetic, because the world recognizes those who don't move in chaos. The frame isn't aggression, it's gravity. It's what keeps you centered while everything else spins. It can't be seen, it can't be explained, it can be felt. And when you learn to maintain it, you no longer need anything to be respected. You just need to be present. That's the first step, understanding that the frame isn't earned. It's built every day, through every chosen silence, every measured word, every avoided reaction. It's your invisible strength, it's your framework, it's your freedom. And without it, any power you think you have is only temporary. The world doesn't want you to maintain your frame, not because it's mad at you, but because the entire system is built to distract it. Every day, someone, or something, tries to make you react. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's violent, but the pattern is always the same. Push you out of your center, drag you into chaos, make you lose your calm, and with it, your power. We live in a society that feeds on your reaction. The more you react, the more you consume. The angrier you get, the more you let yourself be controlled. The more you defend yourself, the more they trap you. Everything around you is designed to touch your raw nerves. The news that provoke you, the social media that makes you compare, the people who test your patience. It's not a coincidence, it's a system. Because a man who loses his frame is a predictable man, and a predictable man is easily manipulated. A reactive man buys what he's told to buy, gets offended when he's told to get offended, loves those who tell him to love, hate those who tell him to hate. He's a puppet disguised as a free thinker. The frame, however, is what separates you from this madness. It's your mental shield. It's the barrier between you and a world that constantly wants to make you feel inadequate. The world tries to make you lose your focus in many ways. The first is distraction. Every time you waste time on something that doesn't serve your growth, you're giving away pieces of your focus. And where your focus goes, your energy goes. The second is provocation. Those who lack balance will always try to steal yours. They'll push you, test you, try to make you snap. Not because they want to see you angry, but because they want to know your worth. Provocation is the currency of respect. It's a primal test, and every time you react, you demonstrate a weak frame of mind. Every time you remain calm, the other person realizes they're dealing with a different man. The third is emotional seduction. The world offers you small pleasures to make you lower your guard. Instant gratification, social recognition, female attention. Every time you feel seen by something outside, you're already trapped, because the frame feeds only on what is born within you, not on what is given to you. And when you start seeking external gratification, you slowly begin to lose your center. The fourth way is conflict. We live in an age where everything is polarized, where everyone wants you to take a stand. But the man with a solid frame never chooses reaction. He chooses vision. He doesn't let himself be pulled to one side or the other. He stays in the middle, where the truth is clearest. And this, in the modern world, is unacceptable, because you can't control those who don't react. That's why almost everyone falls, because they want to be right. They want to be approved. They want to feel on the right side. But a man with a frame doesn't need to feel right. Being whole is enough. Every day, someone will try to make you shift your frame. And the most insidious thing is that they will often do it with the best of intentions. A woman who wants to test you, a friend who teases you as a joke, a colleague who tries to measure your limits. They are not enemies. They are unconscious coaches. Every provocation is a training ground for your frame. If you react, you lose. If you observe, you grow. Your frame is an armor. It's a mental posture. It's the ability to remain yourself, even when the world asks you to be someone else. And the world will. It will ask you to be more docile, more compliant, more flexible, more emotional, more understanding. But every time you sacrifice your firmness for acceptance, a part of you dies. Being firm in your frame doesn't mean closing yourself off. It means not selling yourself short. It means saying, I can listen to everything, but I won't let myself be defined by anything. Those who don't understand this will accuse you of being cold. They'll say you're rigid, that you lack empathy, that you're too calm. But calm is what scares them, because it reveals their instability. Every time you remain imperturbable, the other is forced to see themselves in the mirror. And the mirror of your calm is the most uncomfortable reflection for those who live in chaos. This is why the world hates men with frames, because it can't manipulate them. It can't make them feel guilty. It can't buy them with flattery or fear. Yet, this is your mission, to stand firm in a world that thrives on imbalance. You don't have to be perfect. You have to be present. Every time you feel the urge to react, to justify yourself, to explain, stop, breathe, observe. That moment, the one in which you feel the urge to leave your center, is the test. And if you pass it, your frame becomes stronger, because the frame isn't built on easy days, but on difficult ones. Every time you treat yourself like a man, even when everything invites you to act like a child, you are tempering your frame. The world is a constant test. You won't change it, but you can change the way you navigate it. A man without frames navigates life like a leaf in the wind. A man with frames navigates life like a mountain in the clouds. The clouds change shape. The mountain doesn't. And that's the difference between living reactively and living as a master. Every time you choose calm, every time you align yourself with your center rather than external pressure, you are sending a clear message to the world. You can no longer use me as emotional leverage. And when the world understands, it can no longer move you. It begins to respect you. Respect is not demanded. It is earned through calm. And calm is born of the frame. Maintaining it will be difficult. Losing it will be very easy. But remember, every time you lose it, you can always rebuild it. And every time you rebuild it, it becomes stronger. The frame is your daily training. Every interaction, a test. Every word held back, a victory. Every provocation ignored, another brick in your solidity. And over time, you will become something the world can no longer move. A man who does not belong to chaos. The frame is not a single concept. It is a set of three forces that intertwine within you: mental, emotional, and social. Three pillars that, when aligned, make you immovable. But when one gives way, the entire structure falters. Your mental frame is your worldview. It's what you believe you are, what you think is right, what you're unwilling to change just to please others. Your emotional frame is your inner stability. It's how you handle pressure, provocation, pain. It's your ability to remain calm even when everything seems to fall apart. Your social frame is the presence you radiate. It's how you move through the world, how you communicate, how others react to your energy. These three levels are connected. One strengthens the other, and when all three merge, you become a man who can no longer be moved. 1. The mental frame. Your vision is your armor. Everything begins in the mind. This is where the frame is born and dies. If you don't have a clear idea of who you are, everyone you meet will try to tell you. Your mental frame is your map. It's the compass that guides you when emotions run high, when confusion surrounds you, when pressure increases. Most men don't have a map. He lives by reacting to the moment, making decisions based on how he feels, not what he believes. But a man with a strong mental frame has a direction even in chaos. Not because he always knows where to go, but because he knows who he will never be. This is the difference between strength and reactivity. The weak change their minds depending on the environment. The strong maintain their course even when the world judges them. The mental frame is built through solitude. You cannot understand who you are unless you learn to be alone with your thoughts. Silence, which for many is empty, for the man with a solid frame is a laboratory. It is in silence that you build convictions. It is there that you form your principles. It is there that you decide what you will never betray. Those without principles become a reflection of those around them, but those with principles become a reflection of their own vision. The mental frame is the foundation of respect, because respect comes from one thing alone: consistency. And consistency comes from a solid thought. When your mind is clear, your words become slower, your gestures more measured, and your every action communicates stability. Mental calm is not the absence of thought. It is the order of thought. It is the ability to observe your emotions without becoming one of them. Every time you choose logic over reaction, your mental frame grows. 2. The emotional frame. A controlled heart is pure power. If the mind is the map, the heart is the fuel. And if you don't learn to manage it, the journey ends in a fire. The emotional frame is your ability to remain calm under pressure. It determines whether your thinking remains stable or melts in the face of life's intensity. Men who lose everything almost always do so because they have allowed themselves to be dominated by emotions. Love, anger, fear, ego, all powerful energies, but devastating if not channeled. A man with a solid emotional frame doesn't repress emotions. He masters them. He listens to them, accepts them, transforms them into strength. When you feel anger rising, you don't react, you breathe. When fear grips you, you don't run away. You observe. When pain strikes, you don't close yourself off. You transform that wound into discipline. The emotional frame is born from the practice of calm. Not passive calm, but active, intentional, chosen. Every time you remain still instead of reacting, every time you choose silence instead of revenge, every time you let the storm calm before moving, your emotional frame grows stronger. Calm is not a gift, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it must be trained under stress. The mistake many men make is believing that self-control is not feeling. But self-control is feeling everything and choosing anyway. He who doesn't feel is dead inside. He who feels and doesn't react is alive and dominant. People seek strong emotions, but what truly attracts them is someone who can remain centered within them. A man who knows how to remain calm even when he loves, even when he suffers, even when he's provoked, becomes magnetic. Because he exudes security, because he communicates, "You can lose yourself with me, but I will never lose myself." The emotional frame is the bridge between the mind and the world. It's what makes your inner stability tangible. 3. The social frame. Your invisible field of influence. The social frame is how the world perceives your energy. It is the result of the union of mind and heart under control. It is not built with a loud voice or a dominant posture. It is built with consistency. A man with a strong social frame does not speak to convince, he speaks to declare. Every word has weight. Every silence has meaning. He is the kind of man who walks into a room and the energy changes, not because he imposes, but because he stabilizes. Others sense that he is not seeking approval, that he is not playing for attention, that he is not in a hurry to be understood, and this tranquility becomes dominance. The social frame is not measured by popularity, but by the quality of the reactions you generate. Those who live in chaos feel uncomfortable around you. Those who live in calm feel attracted. And over time, you will notice a change. You will not be the one chasing people. They will be the ones orbiting you. The social frame is like a magnetic field. It attracts what vibrates at the same frequency as you and repels everything else. But to maintain it, you have to protect your energy. Every time you try to persuade, you weaken it. Every time you justify yourself, you break it. Every time you adapt to be accepted, you destroy it. You don't need to be loved by everyone. You need to be respected by yourself. And when that happens, the world adjusts itself. Your mental frame guides you. Your emotional frame roots you. Your social frame projects you into the world. Together, they form the trinity of male power. Not a power made of control over others, but of control over yourself. A steady mind, a stable heart, a calm presence. This is the trident of the complete man. And when you learn to keep them in balance, you no longer need to prove anything, because your mere presence becomes proof. It's no mystery. Women test a man's frame. They don't always do it consciously, but they always do. And it's not malice, it's not manipulation, it's not foul play. It's biology, psychology, and a selection instinct. A woman doesn't feel safe with a man who can't handle pressure. She doesn't trust someone who cracks at the first cold look. She doesn't respect those who lose their temper when provoked. She doesn't admire those who seek approval, those who justify themselves, those who chase. Because women don't seek perfection, they seek presence. They want to know that if the world collapses, you don't collapse with it. Female tests aren't meant to humiliate you, but to discover if you're real, if your frame is authentic or just a temporary mask. And the whole world works like this. Every solid structure is tested by time, wind, weight. Only what can withstand the pressure deserves to remain standing. Women do the same. They push you, observe you, poke you to see if you can handle it. And most men can't. They react. They defend themselves. They get offended. They explain. They beg. They try to prove that it's not what you think. But every time you justify yourself, the test has failed. Because the frame isn't demonstrated, it manifests itself. When a woman provokes you, you don't have to convince her of anything. You just have to remain intact. Your calm answers for you. Every time you stand still while she changes her tone, every time you smile instead of explaining, every time you choose silence instead of reacting, your value grows. Not for her, but for yourself. Because the frame isn't there to hold her. It's there to hold you. Women test because it's their nature to select who can handle life. They don't want a perfect man. They want a stable man. A man who doesn't get lost in the emotional storm, who doesn't get dragged into drama, who doesn't react to chaos but transforms it into calm. That's why she provokes you, why she sometimes ignores you, why she changes moods, why she creates tension. It's not a game against you, it's an invitation to show solidity. The mistake many men make is to take the test as a personal insult, as if it were an attack. But it's not. It's a call to your calm masculinity. Every time a woman tests you, she's saying wordlessly, "Let me see if I can trust your silence." Not your power, not your status, not your words. Of your silence. Because silence is where the frame is revealed. You can act confident, but you can't act calm. You can fake trust, but you can't fake presence. That's why the test always comes. No matter how attracted she is, how much she respects you, at some point, she'll want to feel your solidity. And you can only pass that test if you don't try. The frame manifests itself in naturalness, not effort. Anyone who tries to pass the test has already fallen, because those who try, react. Whoever is, remains. Many men complain, "Why does he test me for telling the truth? Why does he change moods for no reason? Why does he seem to provoke me precisely when I'm at my most calm?" The answer is simple, because true tranquility is only recognized when it's disturbed. As long as everything is easy, anyone can feign calm. But true calm is that which resists tension. And women know it. They feel it. It's an instinct as old as life itself. They don't trust words, they trust vibrations. If your tone changes, if your energy cracks, if your voice breaks, they know your calm was fragile. And the moment your calm breaks, their attraction also falls. Not because they want to see you weak, but because they can no longer feel protected. A man who loses his frame becomes unstable. And instability doesn't generate respect, it generates anxiety. You can't lead if your energy is disordered. You can't inspire trust if you're emotionally unpredictable. Here's what many don't understand. A test isn't a challenge, it's a silent question. And the question is, can I trust your calm? Every woman will ask it in different ways. Some with words, some with silence, some with ambiguous behavior. But the root is always the same. They want to feel your core. And the deeper their attraction, the harder the tests will be. Because the more they see you as a solid man, the more they'll try to touch the edge of your calm. Not to destroy you, but to discover where you end and your mask begins. How do you respond to tests then? With nothing, with presence, with active silence. Active silence is not escape. It is observation. It is the moment when you let the other person reveal themselves completely while you remain stable in your breathing. A test requires no explanations. It requires non-reactive presence. If she provokes you, look into her eyes and remain still. No words are needed. Your body communicates, "Don't move me." And when she understands that she can't move you, she begins to relax, because her feminine energy calms only when accompanied by stable masculine energy. It's an ancient dance. The woman pushes, the man contains, not to dominate, but to create balance. And when that balance is established, she surrenders to trust. Not to fear, but to presence. This is the secret of the frame in relationships. Don't win the test, transcend it. When you stop reacting, the test loses its meaning. Because the test only serves to see if you react. And if you don't react, there's nothing left to test. Many men look for formulas, phrases, strategies to manage the tests. But the frame isn't managed with words. It's experienced in the body. It's a form of calm and steady energy. It's the way you sit, the way you breathe, the way you look, the way you choose silence when your ego screams at you to speak. Every time you resist the temptation to defend yourself, your frame grows. Every time you choose not to respond immediately, your strength consolidates. Because the man who doesn't react is a man who has chosen mastery. And when you reach that level, you no longer need to pass tests. You become the test. People who meet you immediately realize that they can't play with your calm, that they can't push you out of your center. And in that moment, respect is born in silence. It's not submission, it's recognition. It's the world that, for the first time, feels the strength of a man who doesn't need to defend himself to be strong. This is the profound meaning of female tests. They're not traps, they're filters. They serve to separate those who have the frame from those who pretend to. And when you learn to see them like this, they no longer bother you. They become a game, a way to practice your calm, an opportunity to say to yourself, wordlessly, "Look how still I am." And the moment you can say it effortlessly, without having to prove it, you have crossed the threshold. You are no longer playing the frame. You are it. There are moments when the world seems to invite you to lose control. The wrong tone, a stinging word, a silence that weighs too much. It is in those moments that your frame is truly tested. Not when everything is calm, not when you feel centered, but when something inside you ignites and screams, Answer: every man knows that feeling. The heart that beats faster, the breath that shortens, the mind that begins to construct sentences, defenses, attacks. It is the most instinctive part of you that reacts, the part that believes that maintaining the frame means winning the argument. But that is not the case. Maintaining the frame does not mean prevailing. It means not getting dragged along. The frame is presence, not victory. And during a conflict, the only thing that matters is not losing your presence. When you argue, you don't have to convince. You have to stay. Most men, when they enter a conflict, lose their focus. They begin to explain, defend themselves, justify themselves, for fear of appearing insensitive. But in an attempt to save the dialogue, they forgive themselves. A man with a solid frame doesn't argue to win. He speaks to clarify. And if he senses that the other side isn't willing to understand, he chooses silence. Because you can't communicate with someone who won't listen, and you can't stay calm if you let yourself get drawn into the drama. The frame in conflict is like a controlled fire. You have to feel the heat, but you can't let it escape. Every discussion is a test of your mastery, and the first rule for passing it is this: don't react to the tone, but to the content. If you react to the tone, you're giving power to emotion. If you respond to the content, you're guiding the conversation. When a woman speaks to you angrily, you don't have to fix the anger. You have to stay calm enough not to let it become yours too. It's easy to say, stay calm. But calm isn't a pose. It's a consequence of breathing. During conflict, most men stop breathing. They hold their breath, their jaw tightens, their body tenses. At that moment, the frame disappears, because the body is saying, I'm reacting. The first step, therefore, is to return to the body, not to the mind, not to the dialogue, to the body. Breathe deeply. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your pulse. Let the energy flow from your head to your chest. And then look, listen, observe. Don't try to understand immediately. Let the words flow like waves. When you stay present long enough, you'll realize that most conflicts aren't against you. They're the other person's venting. An agitated person doesn't want to hurt you. They want to release the tension they feel inside. But if you react, you become part of the tension. If you remain calm, you become her point of stability. A man's calm can put out an emotional fire, not with logic, not with perfect sentences, but with a firm presence. Don't say, calm down. Show her what it means to be calm. The frame isn't imposed with words, it's transmitted with energy. The relaxed body, the low voice, the eyes that don't try to be right. These are the invisible signs of strength. Every woman, deep down, respects this kind of calm, because it's a sign that you're grounded, that you don't get drawn into emotional games, that you can remain lucid even when she's storming. And in that moment, even if she doesn't say it, she'll feel safe. The frame, in conflict, isn't used to dominate. It's used to protect space. It's used to say, with your energy, we can deal with everything, but we won't get lost in the chaos. This is what transforms a discussion into connection, because the truth is, you can't avoid conflict, but you can choose how to enter it. You can enter it to react, or you can enter it to understand. Those who enter to react come out destroyed. Those who enter to understand come out stronger. Maintaining the frame in conflict means knowing that you don't always have to have the last word, that you can let the other person speak, that you can listen without giving up your calm, that you can say, I understand, without feeling weak. Calm isn't surrender, it's domination. Every word spoken in calm weighs 10 times more. Every pause in the discussion builds respect. Every steady gaze becomes a message. The emotional person tries to push you down to their level, but if you stay within yours, the strength changes direction. It's no longer you who chases peace. It's the peace that is created around you. And over time, those around you learn to recognize this. They understand that yelling at you is pointless, that provoking you is futile, that arguing to win leaves you indifferent. Because your goal isn't to win the conversation, it's to protect your calm. And this calm becomes contagious. The frame is like this. It doesn't need to be explained. It needs to be lived. If you learn to maintain it in conflict, you will maintain it everywhere, because life is a constant dialogue between pressure and presence. And only those who remain present become masters of themselves. The world doesn't remember who was right. It remembers who remained steadfast. Those who don't need to raise their voice to be heard. Those who don't lose their cool even when provoked. Those who can look the storm in the eye and say with their breath, not with words, "Don't move me." This is the frame that doesn't break. And when you learn to maintain it in the worst moments, the whole of life begins to respect you. Being calm doesn't mean being weak. But in today's world, where everything is shouting, rushing, and reacting, calm is mistaken for indifference, and quiet strength is often mistaken for lack of character. The truth is the opposite. The truly strong man is calm, not because he doesn't feel, but because he has learned to contain what he feels. Virile calm is not a mask. It is an energy that comes from within. It's the awareness that you don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to react to every provocation. You don't have to assert yourself every time someone tries to touch your ego. Virile calm is proof that you've overcome the need to prove yourself. And when a man stops proving himself, he finally starts showing. Show what? Mastery, presence, self-control, silent strength. Calm is unspent power. It's strength under control. It's a gun with the safety on. You don't have to pull the trigger to show that you're armed. People sense it. They perceive it in your low voice, your slow movements, your firm posture. You don't need to raise your voice, because your calm speaks louder than the noise of others. Virile calm is like gravity. It goes unnoticed, but it keeps everything in its place. It makes the world spin without demanding attention. Those who lack calm need to dominate. Those who have calm already dominate. Aggression is always the product of insecurity. Those who shout want to convince. Those who threaten want to protect their own emptiness. But those who are calm don't need to convince anyone, because the truth reveals itself. Virile calm comes from recognizing your own power and deciding not to use it, not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. Because every time you react, every time you let instinct take over, you are giving your power to the other. Calm is the ability to choose your timing, not the perfect moment, but the right moment. The world rushes by, you observe. The world screams, you listen. The world reacts, you respond slowly. Slowness is a form of domination. Those who slow down set the pace. Those who remain still dictate the rules. When you learn virile calm, you are no longer at the mercy of other people's emotions. You become the frame within which everything happens. People can talk, move, provoke you, but everything happens in your space, and this changes the dynamics invisibly. Virile calm is not detachment. It is involvement without loss of self. You can love deeply, but don't despair if the other person distances themselves. You can be present in a conflict, but don't get lost in anger. You can listen to an insult, but don't let it define you. It's the calm that comes from inner certainty, the certainty that no one can take away who you are. A calm man has an aura that commands respect, not through intimidation, but through serenity, because serenity, in a hysterical world, is a form of power. People feel safe around a calm man, and not just women, other men too, because calm is balance, and balance is what everyone unconsciously seeks. A man who can remain calm is like a lake in the midst of a storm. The surface may ripple, but the deep waters remain still. Manly calm isn't built by reading books or repeating motivational phrases. It's built by experiencing storms without running away, by letting anger rise but without acting on it, by letting fear come but without seeking immediate comfort, allowing the pain to pass through you but without seeking distractions. Every time you remain present within the emotion, every time you let it flow without reacting, the calm expands. It becomes deeper, more real, more stable. This is why men who have suffered greatly, if they have been able to remain awake within the pain, develop an almost mystical calm. It is as if they have seen the end of the world within themselves and have understood that nothing external can truly touch them anymore. Virile calm is the opposite of indifference. Indifference is born of emptiness. Calm is born of fullness. Those who are indifferent do not feel. Those who are calm feel everything, but do not lose themselves in anything. When you reach that level of calm, your presence changes the environment. You speak less, but every word carries weight. You move less, but every gesture is decisive. You don't seek to impress, but you leave a lasting impression. Women sense it. They sense that your energy is no longer seeking validation, that you're not trying to win with words, that you don't need to be liked. And this, paradoxically, makes you much more attractive. Because attraction doesn't come from the desire to please, but from the mystery of calm. And true calm is irresistible because it's rare. He who stays calm leads. He who reacts follows. And modern society is built to make you react, to make you run, compete, demonstrate, justify yourself. But virile calm is pure rebellion. It's telling the world, you can't get me, I choose the pace. This is the secret of silent strength. It doesn't need recognition, it's self-sufficient. When a man achieves this calm, he becomes a presence that others sense even from a distance. He can walk into a room and not say a word, and yet everyone turns away. Because its energy doesn't scream, it vibrates. It's not mystery, it's domination. Virile calm is the ultimate expression of Stoicism in action. It's not theory, it's behavior. It's not philosophy, it's breathing. You can practice it every day. Every time someone provokes you, every time life puts pressure on you, every time the ego asks you to prove yourself, choose calm. It's a choice that seems small, but it changes everything. Calm doesn't make you less of a man. It makes you more dangerous. Because those who control themselves cannot be controlled by anyone. Every man loses it, sooner or later. Even the most steadfast, the most aware, the most disciplined. No one maintains the frame forever, and not because they're weak, but because they're human. There will be times when life will hit you harder than expected. A betrayal, a failure, a rejection, a silence that weighs more than 1,000 words. You'll feel empty, disoriented, vulnerable, and your mind will start screaming, "You've lost control." In reality, you haven't. You've just forgotten where it is. The frame never disappears. It hides beneath layers of emotions, fears, wounded egos, regrets. And your job is not to find it, but to return to it. Because the frame isn't something you build once and for all. It's something you rebuild every time it falls. And every time you rebuild it, it becomes deeper, more real, more yours. Losing the frame isn't a failure. It's a reminder, an invitation to look inside yourself and understand where you've allowed something external to dictate your worth. When you lose it, don't punish yourself. Observe. Ask yourself, where did I stop being myself for fear of losing something or someone? The frame always cracks at the point where you stop honoring yourself. The moment you adapt too much, justify yourself too much, love too one-sidedly, you begin to drift away from your center. And at first, you don't notice. You tell yourself it's for the good of the relationship, to avoid conflict, so as not to appear cold. But slowly you realize that the calm you once had has turned into anxiety, that the confidence you exuded has become neediness, that the strength you once felt has become fragility, hidden behind the right words. When that moment comes, it's the signal that you need to go back within. Rebuilding the frame begins in silence, not in explanations, not in revenge, not in impulsive decisions. In silence. Sit with yourself, without music, without your phone, without distractions, and let the pain surface. Don't run away. Don't seek immediate comfort. Look at the emptiness you feel. Look at the tension in your body. Look at the stories your mind tells you. Every time you observe without reacting, you are already rebuilding. Because the frame isn't repaired with pride. It's repaired with awareness. The first step is to accept that you've lost it. Admit that you've left your center to pursue something outside of yourself. Only then can you put down roots again. Many men, when they lose their frame, try to get back on their feet immediately. They seek distractions, validation, new relationships, new goals. But the frame isn't rebuilt by running. It's rebuilt by standing still. It's like a torn muscle. You have to give it time to heal. And healing requires conscious stillness. Remain in the void until it stops scaring you. Because only when you stop fearing it does calm return. And with calm, the frame returns. During this process, remember, you are not less of a man because you gave in. You are more of a man because you chose to return. Every time a man returns to his center after losing it, the world notices the change. Not because it becomes harder, but because it becomes deeper. The man who has never fallen knows nothing of true power. But the man who has fallen and chosen to get up calmly, without anger, without revenge, is unstoppable. The frame born from pain is incorruptible because it is no longer based on pride, but on self-knowledge. Rebuilding your frame means remembering who you are without needing to prove it. It means forgiving yourself for all the times you searched outside for what was inside. It means choosing calm even when your body wants to scream. It's a slow process, but every step counts. Start over with the little things. Your posture, your breathing, the tone of your voice, the words you choose, the time you dedicate to yourself. Every coherent gesture is a brick in your new frame. Every calmly said no reinforces your identity. Every boundary respected is a silent declaration of value. And then comes the day when something inside you realigns. There's no precise moment, no external signal. You simply notice that your mind is clearer, your heart is calmer, your body is more stable. It's in that moment that you understand. The frame has returned. But it's not the same as before. It's quieter, more confident, more real. You no longer need to feel strong, you are. And those who look at you notice, not because you do something, but because you are something. Those who saw you falter now perceive the difference. The tone of your voice has changed. Your presence is different. You no longer speak to convince. You no longer react to protect yourself. You have transformed the wound into a boundary. This is true masculine power. The ability to lose and find yourself. To fall and get up with the same calm with which you breathe. Every loss of frame, if faced with clarity, becomes an initiation. A silent rite that separates those who feign solidity from those who embody it. Don't fear the moments when you lose it. Only fear learning nothing from them. The frame is not static. It is a movement that renews itself every time you choose yourself above all else. Every time you don't react. Every time you don't seek validation. Every time you let reality take its course without losing your direction. There will be other tests, other trials, other falls. But each time you will return stronger, calmer, more true. Eventually, you'll discover that it's no longer about maintaining the frame. It's about being the frame. A man who has lost everything and hasn't lost himself is a man who can no longer be defeated. Because he's understood that the greatest power is not never falling, but never staying down. There are men who walk into a room and they don't need to say anything. They don't raise their voices. They don't try to attract attention. They don't make noise. Yet the atmosphere changes. People turn around. The energy shifts. The pace slows. As if their mere presence had a different specific weight. That's the power of the social frame. You don't build it with appearances, but with consistency. It's not something you wear. It's something you emanate. The frame is an invisible field that expands from within you. It's the result of years of mastery, of chosen silences, of battles won within the mind before they were won in the world. You don't need to be the tallest, the richest, the most charismatic. You need to be centered. When you're centered, the world adjusts to you. People, even without realizing it, begin to synchronize with your calm. They lower their voices. They change their posture. They listen to you differently. Because energy is contagious. And the calm you radiate is not normal. It's magnetic. Your social frame is the external effect of your internal balance. You can't pretend to have it because the body always betrays the mind. The way you walk, the rhythm of your breathing, the confidence in your gaze. Everything communicates who you are. And the truth is, the world doesn't respond to words. It responds to vibrations. You can say you're confident, but if your body is tense, your voice nervous, your eyes impatient, no one will believe you. You can say you're calm, but if your breathing is shallow and your hands are moving too much, your frame dissolves. Energy doesn't lie. That's why your social frame is the most subtle, yet most powerful part of your masculine power. Because it manifests without you having to do anything. It's the visible expression of your invisible calm. Every room has a rhythm. Every group has an energetic hierarchy. And whoever is calmer leads. It doesn't matter who holds the highest position or who speaks the most. What matters is who remains unperturbed, who stands firm while others waver. Calm is perceived as authority, silence as respect, lack of reaction as strength. This is the secret of social framing. You don't have to command to be heard. You just have to be. When you have a solid frame, you don't have to prove anything. You don't need to impress, to conquer, to defend yourself. Because the world regulates itself around you. People perceive you as a point of reference. They ask you for opinions. They seek you out when there's tension. They look to you when they need direction. Not because you're loud, but because you're stable. A man who knows how to remain steadfast in the midst of chaos automatically becomes the emotional leader of the group. It's not a question of role. It's a question of energy. Silent leadership is the most powerful because it's not based on fear, but on trust. When people sense your calm, they relax. When they feel your presence, they focus. When they sense your direction, they follow it. And not because you ask to be followed, but because your energy makes it natural. The social frame is like a radio frequency. Everyone emits a signal, but only those with inner clarity transmit clearly. Others have interference, changes in tone, mood, intensity. You, on the other hand, remain constant. And consistency, in a world that changes every second, is pure power. People trust what doesn't change. And you, by becoming stable, become predictable in the best sense of the word. A fixed point. But be careful. Being predictable doesn't mean being boring. It means being reliable. It means your energy isn't for sale. It doesn't bend to trends. It doesn't break under pressure. The social frame is what makes you a pillar in other people's worlds. Not because you want to be, but because you can no longer be anything else. And do you know what happens when you become that pillar? Respect no longer has to be demanded. It comes, silently, spontaneously, inevitably. People sense it. They can't explain why, but they sense that you can't be played with, manipulated, or dominated. Not because you threaten, but because you don't react. And those who don't react can't be controlled. This kind of calm confuses those who thrive on chaos. Those who feed on drama will try to get you to move. They'll try to touch you, provoke you, try to understand if you're really there. But the more they try to move you, the more they realize you're immobile, and the more they respect you. The social frame isn't the body's armor. It's the invisible root of the soul. It's how you exist in the world without letting the world absorb you. Every time you choose silence, every time you stand still while others lose control, every time you smile in the face of provocation, you're strengthening your social energy because you're sending a powerful message. I'm not here to compete, I'm here to be. And this is a form of dominance that no one can steal from you. A man with a strong social frame doesn't win people over with words, but with his presence. Women perceive it as security. Men perceive it as respect. The world perceives it as authority. He doesn't have to raise his voice because his calm speaks louder than any volume. He doesn't have to assert himself because his consistency does that for him. He doesn't have to prove anything because everything about him is already proof. The social frame is the most visible expression of your inner work. It's calm that becomes charisma. It's solidity that becomes influence. It's mastery that becomes power. When you reach this level, there's no longer any difference between what you think, feel, and show. Everything is aligned. And that total coherence is pure magnetism. People may not understand what you have, but they'll sense you have something they lack. A peace that depends on nothing. And peace, in the modern world, is the highest form of status. Modern seduction is almost always a race made up of messages, attention, strategies, power plays, a race in which those who show least interest win, and those who reveal themselves too quickly lose. But this isn't seduction, it's fear. True attraction isn't born of need, it's born of presence, and presence is what distinguishes the average man from a man who owns his frame. When a man has a solid frame, he doesn't have to chase, he doesn't have to convince, he doesn't have to demonstrate value, because value isn't demonstrated, it emanates. And this is what women perceive more than anything else. Not words, not compliments, not proof of love, but the calm energy of a man who needs nothing. Because calm is the highest form of charm, women feel it on a visceral level. A calm man isn't empty, he's full. He's not disinterested, he's selective. He's not cold, he's centered. Need pushes, calm attracts. Need creates distance, calm creates curiosity. Need screams, look at me. Calm whispers, observe me if you want. And the difference is everything. Need arises from the fear of not being enough. Calm comes from the certainty of being self-sufficient. A man who lives in need seeks approval. A man who lives in calm inspires attraction. Because a woman isn't attracted to the man who pursues her, but to the one who doesn't lose himself while looking at her. When you're in your frame, your energy changes. Your tone of voice is lower, your gaze is steady. Your movements are measured. Not because you control them, but because there's no tension inside you. And that absence of tension is magnetic. Because in modern society, everyone lives on edge. Everyone's looking for something. Everyone wants to be seen. But you don't. You are. You don't care about being chosen. You care about choosing. And that difference immediately separates you from the rest. When a woman meets a man with this kind of presence, she feels safe and challenged at the same time. She feels she can't control him, but she can trust him. And that mix, security and mystery, is the most powerful form of attraction there is. The frame in seduction isn't a tactic. It's a frequency. It's your basic energy that communicates, I'm enough for myself. I don't seek you to complete me. I meet you to share. And this changes everything. Most men get lost in the desire to please. They mold themselves to what they think she wants. They laugh when they don't want to laugh. They say yes when they want to say no. And slowly, they strip themselves of their power. Every concession born from the fear of loss is a splinter of the frame that cracks. And once it's cracked, the attraction fades. Because a woman never falls in love with a man who adapts to her. She falls in love with a man who remains himself by her side. Calm is proof that you don't need to please anyone to stay. It's the silent demonstration that your presence is already enough. Every time you resist the urge to explain yourself, every time you don't respond immediately to a message, every time you choose silence instead of rushing, you are communicating strength, not with words, but with time management. Time is the currency of the frame. He who controls his own time controls the dynamic, not because he's playing, but because he's not in a hurry. And calm is born precisely there, in the absence of haste. Haste is the child of insecurity. Those who are afraid of losing, speed up. Those who know their worth, slow down. A man with a solid frame doesn't have to respond immediately, not because he's strategic, but because he doesn't live with the anxiety of losing something. He knows that what is for him cannot escape. This isn't disinterest, it's mastery. And mastery is irresistible because it communicates a message that touches the deepest instinct. With me, you are not in control of my emotional state. When a woman feels this, she relaxes because she finally perceives a presence greater than her emotions. And feminine energy loves to be contained, not dominated. It loves the masculine calm that doesn't judge, doesn't react, but remains firm while everything changes. The frame isn't rigidity. It's stable flexibility. You can laugh, you can be playful, you can even be vulnerable, but everything comes from a firm foundation. When a man is truly in his frame, he isn't afraid to show parts of himself, because he knows no emotion can break it. He can say, "I miss you," without losing his dignity. He can say no without feeling cruel. He can listen without getting lost in the other's words. This is the most mature form of seduction, the calm presence that doesn't need to possess to feel complete. And it's also the rarest, because most people love from a state of anxiety, not from a state of peace. But the love born from peace is the one that lasts, because calm doesn't promise, it demonstrates. It doesn't seduce with intensity, it seduces with consistency. It doesn't conquer with the unexpected, but with the predictability that reassures. A man with a solid frame is predictable not because he's boring, but because he's stable. And stability, in the emotional sea of modern life, is the true rarity. A woman can even try to move him, test him, put him to the test. But the more she does, the more she discovers that he doesn't move. And that immobility becomes pure magnetism. Because mystery isn't saying nothing. Mystery isn't being moved by anything. The frame, in seduction, is like a flame that doesn't burn, but warms. It doesn't need to attract. Whoever feels its heat approaches on their own. That's why men who truly understand the frame never talk about techniques. They don't need them. Technique is the surface. The frame is the substance. It's not about saying the right words, but about being the right presence. And when you learn this, attraction becomes natural, effortless, without tension, because it doesn't arise from the desire to fill a void, but from the pleasure of sharing your fullness. Every man, sooner or later, finds himself faced with a woman who tries to move him. Sometimes, obviously, other times subtly. But the goal is always the same, to see if she can dominate your frame. She doesn't do it out of malice. She doesn't do it to destroy you. She does it to understand if your calm is genuine. The female mind has a natural radar for authenticity. It doesn't trust appearances. It doesn't let itself be convinced by words. She wants to sense whether your presence is stable. And the only way to find out is to try to shift you. That's why she provokes you, contradicts you, challenges you, puts you in situations where your ego must choose. Do I defend myself or remain calm? Those with a weak frame respond immediately. They try to clarify, justify themselves, explain. They want to restore calm with words, but in doing so, they lose it completely. Because every time you try to regain control through control, you've already lost it. The frame doesn't defend itself. It maintains itself. The difference is subtle, but total. Defending yourself means reacting to the other's rhythm. Maintaining yourself means staying within your own rhythm. He who reacts follows. He who maintains himself leads. Here's the secret. Every attempt to dominate your frame is a test of emotional leadership. The woman doesn't want to be your boss. She wants to understand if she can trust your center. She wants to know if your calm is an appearance or a root. Because if it's an appearance, it will fall at the first impact. But if it's a root, she will finally be able to relax. Many men don't understand this mechanism. They mistake tests for disrespect. They get irritated, they withdraw, they take emotional revenge. And so they confirm exactly what she feared, that their frame of mind was fragile. A man who reacts angrily or coldly to a test shows that his balance still depends on the outside, that his calm is not yet independent. The right response, however, is not anger, nor even indifference. It is active serenity. Active serenity is the calm that observes, smiles slightly, and lets the test dissolve on its own. Because the test, if it doesn't elicit a reaction, dies. It cannot survive silence. When a woman provokes you, she doesn't want to win. She wants to see if you fall. She wants to see if your gaze breaks, if your voice changes, if your energy cracks. because if it cracks, she can no longer trust. She doesn't want a wall. She wants a living rock. A man who remains firm, but who knows how to understand. The frame isn't hardness, it's elastic solidity. It's the strength that doesn't give in, but doesn't need to resist. A man with a solid frame doesn't compete with feminine energy. He welcomes it, contains it, channels it. When she raises her voice, he lowers it. When she gets agitated, he slows down. When she closes down, he doesn't force it. Because he knows that true dominance isn't reaction, but influence. Feminine energy is like water. You can't resist it. You can only shape it with your calm. And if your calm is real, it adapts naturally. That's why a man who loses his temper to impose himself doesn't dominate. He gives in. Anyone who needs to raise their voice to gain respect has already lost respect. Anyone who has to explain too much has already lost authority. Anyone who defends themselves has already admitted guilt. A solid frame doesn't justify themselves, not because they're arrogant, but because they're clear. Clarity doesn't need words. It's perceived. It's that calm presence that says, I know who I am. You can tell me whatever you want, but I'm still the same. And that disarms anyone. Because most people live trying to move others, and when they find someone who doesn't move, they remain confused, fascinated, intrigued. This is the power of the frame in the male-female dynamic. It's not control, it's gravity. You become the center around which everything revolves. You don't impose, but everything ends up orbiting around you. And this isn't because you're authoritarian, but because you're immutable. When she tries to dominate your frame, she unconsciously wants to see if you're still capable of leading. Because masculine energy is direction. Feminine energy is movement. And movement, without direction, gets lost. Every time a woman tries to draw you into her drama, her tension, her emotions, she doesn't do it to hurt you. She does it because she wants to feel your firmness. And when she finds it, she calms down. Not because she gives up, but because she finally feels safe. Masculine calm is security. Security is attraction. Attraction is trust. And trust is love. It all starts with the frame. If you want to respond stoically when she tries to dominate you, you don't have to win. You have to hold the line. You don't have to demonstrate your power. You have to show that your power cannot be taken away. You don't have to control the conversation. You have to control your presence. And if you understand this, any attempt at testing becomes futile, because testing is only useful with those who are still learning. But with those who are already trained, testing no longer makes sense. In the end, she doesn't want to dominate you. She wants to trust you. She wants to know that your calm isn't put on, that your strength isn't a facade, that your direction isn't wavering. And when she understands this, she no longer needs to test you, because she's found what she was looking for. A man who doesn't have to react to be strong. A man who is strong because he doesn't react. The human mind is a magnetic field. Every time you come into contact with someone, two fields meet. And in that encounter, either you stabilize the other, or the other destabilizes you. Those with a weak frame don't even notice. They absorb emotions, absorb energy, react to tone, words, expressions. All it takes is a poorly spoken sentence, a change in gaze, and their equilibrium is shattered. But those with a solid frame know it. Every interaction is a small, energetic battlefield. Not physical, not visible, but real. Every time you talk to someone, the world asks you, who's leading the energy now? And if it's not you, someone else will do it for you. The frame is your invisible armor. It's not coldness, it's protection. It's the way you say, I can listen to you, but I won't let you in too deeply. Not everyone deserves access to your calm. Not everyone has the right to touch your energy. Because many aren't looking for connection, they're looking for release. They're not looking to be listened to, they're looking for a container for their tension. And if you don't have clear boundaries, you become everyone's container. The friend who absorbs the pain of others. The man who takes on everyone's emotions. The companion who tries to fix everything. But fixing other people's chaos is the fastest way to destroy your own balance. The Stoic knows you can't save anyone who doesn't want to save themselves. You can only avoid losing yourself while trying to help. The frame is that invisible line that says, I can be with you in your pain, but the pain won't enter me. And this, in today's world, is a superpower because we are surrounded by chaos, emotional, mental, social chaos. People who live in constant reaction, who scream, who get offended, who get agitated. Everyone is looking for someone to unload on. And if you don't have a solid frame, you become their dumping ground. The man with a frame, on the other hand, doesn't absorb. He observes. He listens, but doesn't get confused. He empathizes, but doesn't get lost. He understands, but remains firm. He's like a tree in the wind. The leaves move, the branches sway, but the roots don't budge. This is the protective function of the frame, rooting you in your silence while the world screams. When someone verbally attacks you, don't defend yourself. Look you in the eyes, listen, breathe. The frame protects you because it doesn't react to the tone, but perceives the intention. Those who try to destabilize you feed on your reaction. It's like an emotional vampire. It can't suck your energy unless you open the door. Every time you react, you're opening the door. Every time you remain calm, you're closing the door. Calm is a reinforced door. Nothing gets in if you don't want it. And there's no need to become cold or cynical. You just need to be selective. Knowing how to say, I understand your anger, but it's not mine. I understand your confusion, but I don't carry it inside. The frame is a boundary discipline. It's the ability to distinguish between understanding and taking on. You can understand everything, but you don't have to take on anything. This applies to relationships, work, and family. Every environment where intense emotions exist is a test for your frame. In the chaos of others, the man without a frame gets lost. The man with a frame becomes a beacon. You don't have to do anything special. You just have to not react. And when you don't react, the energy of the other reflects on him. The chaos, finding no hold, dissolves. Have you ever noticed that when a calm person enters a turbulent room, everything slows down? The voice is lower, the pace changes, the tension eases. That's the frame that acts as a shield and a guide. But when you enter agitated, the chaos increases. Because you're bringing gasoline instead of water. The frame is water. It puts out fires. It refreshes. It stabilizes. Calm is as contagious as anxiety. Except that calm requires discipline. Anxiety doesn't. Anxiety is automatic. Calm is a choice. Every day you have two options: get carried away or stay rooted. The frame is your anchor, and life will constantly try to break it. Through people who challenge you, problems that affect you, fears that wake you at night. But you can always return to your breath, because as long as you breathe calmly, you're still in control. The frame, as a weapon of emotional protection, doesn't serve to isolate you, but to protect what you've built inside. It serves to keep the line between you and the world clear. When the world screams, you whisper. When the world rushes, you slow down. When the world demands, you observe. This doesn't make you distant, it makes you stable. Those who know you will feel it. They'll say that nothing touches you. But that's not true. Everything touches you, only it doesn't break you. This is the profound meaning of emotional mastery. Don't be a heartless rock, but a deep ocean where every wave dissolves. When you learn to be that ocean, no one can take your peace away, because you've stopped looking for it in others. You've built it within, and the world, no matter how noisy, can never destroy what you've learned to protect in silence. Respect isn't asked for. It isn't begged for. It isn't taught with words. Respect is emanated. It's a subtle yet perceptible vibration that forms when your inner world is aligned. Every time you are consistent, every time you choose calm over reaction, every time you maintain your boundaries, even if it costs you, the respect around you grows. Not because you impose fear, but because you communicate order. People respect what is orderly, because chaos immediately recognizes a more solid structure. The frame is that invisible structure that tells the world, here are my boundaries, and they don't change just because you want them to. It's the energy you feel when you walk into a room and everyone knows you're not to be trifled with, even if you haven't said anything. Not because you're rigid, but because you're defined. A defined man doesn't have to raise his voice to assert himself. His presence is enough. People treat him with attention, not out of fear, but out of recognition. Respect always comes from an acknowledgement. This man belongs to himself. Most men no longer belong to themselves. They belong to the judgment of others, to other people's reactions, to temporary approval. And when you don't belong to yourself, no one can truly respect you, because respect cannot exist where sovereignty is lacking. Frame, deep down, is personal sovereignty. It's the ability to say, "This is me," without having to defend it. It's knowing where you end and the world begins. People respect those with clear boundaries. They dislike those who always say yes, those who adapt, those who change their minds to please. Respect comes from limits, not from infinite availability. Being good doesn't mean having no boundaries. It means knowing when to stop. And every time you stop at the right point, the world understands that you are not manipulable. Modern society teaches the opposite. It tells you to be accommodating, flexible, kind at all costs. But when people become too soft, the world tramples them. Not because they are cruel, but because it's the nature of things. Water always seeks the easiest crack. If you don't show where your surface ends, others will enter. Respect isn't built in a day. It's built over time, with every small decision that confirms your integrity. Respect yourself first, and the world will follow. You can't ask others to honor something you violate every day. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you're teaching others how to treat you. Every time you stay where there's no respect, you're telling the world you don't believe you deserve it. Every time you justify behavior that hurts you, you're showing that your frame is fragile. Respect isn't born of harshness. It's born of clarity. And clarity is born of silence. When you know what you want, what you tolerate, and what you don't need to explain yourself. Your energy communicates it before words do. Respect is a nonverbal language. It's the distance you maintain, the gaze that doesn't lower, the calm that doesn't break, the no that doesn't sound aggressive but definitive. Those who aren't used to this kind of strength will think you're cold, but those who've walked enough in life will recognize discipline in you. And discipline is the highest form of self-respect. The world follows those who respect themselves, because those who respect themselves become a point of reference. In work, in relationships, in friendships, people gravitate towards those who don't lose their way, not because he's better, but because he's reliable. A man who maintains his frame is predictable in the most powerful way, not in his behavior, but in his presence. You know he won't explode, that he won't collapse, that he won't betray himself, and this predictability creates trust, and trust creates respect. Many confuse respect with fear, but fear is fragile. As soon as you show yourself to be human, it breaks. True respect, however, grows precisely in vulnerability. When you show your emotions, but don't identify with them. When you acknowledge your anger, but don't let it govern you. When you admit your sadness, but don't get lost in it. That's where people see your strength, not in your mask, but in your mastery. The frame is a form of invisible education. You don't have to shout to be understood. You just have to embody what you say. Every time you respect your time, people learn not to waste it. Every time you respect your silence, people learn to speak to you with moderation. Every time you respect your boundaries, people learn to move carefully in your space. Respect doesn't come from control. It comes from perceived value. And perceived value comes from the calm with which you approach your choices. A man who frets over respect will never be respected. A man who remains calm even in the face of disrespect becomes an enigma that no one can ignore, because he communicates a silent message. You can behave as you wish, but you won't change who I am. And this, in the minds of those who observe you, becomes pure power. Ultimately, respect is a reflection of how you manage disorder. The more centered you are, the more people adjust. The more you react, the more the world measures you. The frame, deep down, is the art of not losing shape in disorder. It's the invisible boundary that allows your calm to become law. You don't have to impose anything. All you need is to be clear. And when your clarity is constant, others adapt on their own. The world respects the man who doesn't change with the wind, because the world itself is wind, and it needs something that remains firm in order to measure itself. Solitude is where your frame is truly built, not in conversations, not in public rehearsals, not in moments when you have to show who you are, but in long silences, when the world falls silent and you're alone with yourself. That's where you understand if your frame is real or just an act. Because in front of others you can feign calm, but in front of silence, no. Silence never lies. It shows you everything you try to ignore. It forces you to look at your thoughts without distractions, to feel the emptiness you fill with noise, to recognize how much your strength still depends on outside gazes. Solitude is not a condemnation. It's a revelation. It's the moment when you encounter yourself without filters, without spectators, without roles. Many fear it, because in solitude there is no validation. There's no one to tell you if you're doing well. There's no approval. There's no attention. But that's precisely where true freedom is born. Because when you learn to be alone without feeling empty, you become invincible. The frame in solitude is the ultimate test. It's easy to be strong when others are watching, but true strength is being solid even when no one is watching. It's getting up in the morning and maintaining discipline, even if no one applauds. It's saying no to what weakens you, even if no one will ever know. It's staying centered in moments of uncertainty, even if no one is watching. The frame is built in invisible moments, in the way you manage your free time, in the way you react to silence, in the way you speak to yourself when you fail. The world only sees the result, but the root is hidden in your solitude. The man who can't be alone is destined to seek himself in others. He will seek recognition, love, attention, everything he should already be giving himself. But the man who finds peace in solitude no longer seeks anything, because he has found everything within. It is in that moment that your presence changes. You no longer need validation. You no longer feel incomplete. You are no longer in a hurry to prove yourself. And this new calm, this silent fullness, is what the world calls charisma. But it's not charisma. It's serenity. It's clean energy. Solitude is not isolation, it's purification. It's the cold water that washes away everything that's not essential. All the masks, the reactions, the useless habits. In solitude, you learn what remains when you strip everything away. And what remains is you. Many try to escape from that moment. They fill their lives with noise, with people, with notifications, with distractions. But escape only weakens the frame, because the more you run away from yourself, the more fragile you become in the face of the world. The frame is born when you learn to stay, to sit in silence and say, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here with myself. At first it's scary. Silence is like a mirror too sharp. It shows you the truth you didn't want to see. It reveals how much you still judge yourself, how much you still seek approval, how much you still fear you're not enough. But if you resist, something changes. Slowly, fear turns into calm, calm into clarity, and clarity into strength. You realize you're not alone. You're with yourself, and that's enough. This is where the frame becomes emotional autonomy. When you no longer need someone to choose you to feel whole. When you no longer feel less if you don't receive attention. When you can spend days in silence without feeling forgotten. Solitude is an invisible workout. Every hour spent with yourself without escaping is a growing muscle. Every thought faced without distraction is a sharpening blade. And when you return to the world, people sense it. They can't explain why, but they sense that you have deeper roots. You don't react as before. You're no longer afraid of silence. You don't fill the pauses with useless words. You don't try to be understood. You simply are. Solitude, for the person who embraces it, becomes power. Not power over others, but over oneself. And when you have power over yourself, no one can move you, because you depend on nothing. You don't depend on a woman to feel alive. You don't depend on a friend to feel understood. You don't depend on recognition to feel valid. You've stopped asking the world for what you can give yourself. Solitude doesn't take away from you. It gives you back. It gives you back respect, calm, direction. It's where you learn the most important rule of Stoicism. Everything you need is already in your possession. The frame in solitude is the essence of silent power. You don't have to do anything, just be there, sitting, calm, present, letting the mind scream until the mind tires and only the breath remains. And it's there, in that breath, that you discover freedom. Silence is the language of the strong. It's the language of men who don't need to explain themselves to be understood. In a world where everyone speaks, where words are wasted like devalued coins, those who know how to remain silent become rare, and what is rare becomes precious. Silence is not emptiness. It is density. It is the voice that needs no sound. It's the presence that fills space without occupying it. A man with a solid frame doesn't speak to be heard. He speaks when he has something to say, and when he has nothing to add, he chooses silence, not as an escape, but as a form of command. Silence is domination, not because it intimidates, but because it dictates rhythm. Whoever controls the rhythm controls the scene. When everyone rushes to respond, you remain silent. When everyone tries to explain, you observe. When the world demands an immediate reaction, you breathe. That breath, that pause, that calm, it's pure power. Because silence isn't the absence of communication, it's slowed down communication. And whoever slows down dominates. Silence is like the void between the notes of a melody. It's what gives meaning to music. Without silence, every word becomes noise. The frame and silence are brothers. The frame is the boundary. Silence is its manifestation. The stronger your frame, the more precious your silence becomes. People listen to you not because you shout, but because you don't shout. He respects you not because you talk so much, but because every word you say carries more weight. Words are like swords. Every time you use them, they lose their edge. Those who talk too much become weaker. Those who talk too little remain sharp. Silence is also a form of observation. When you don't speak, you see. When you don't respond, you understand. When you don't explain, you intuit. And the moment you understand, you no longer need to say anything. Many men get lost trying to make themselves understood. They explain too much, they justify. They seek approval with words. But the more they explain, the less respected they are. Because explanation is often a form of energetic weakness. Those who are self-confident don't explain. Show. Don't say, "This is who I am." Show it. Don't say, "I don't react." Don't react. Don't say, "I'm worthy." Act as if you were worthy. Words should be the last tool, not the first. Truth doesn't need volume. Calm is enough. And calm is silent. Silence is not passivity. It's strategy. Those who remain silent listen to others' moves, see their weaknesses, understand their hidden motives. And when they decide to speak, every sentence hits where it's needed. A man with frame knows that silence is like a tightrope. The more you hold it, the more strength it gathers. And when you release it, the impact is devastating. This is why wise men speak so little. Not because they don't know, but because they know too much to waste words. Silence is the weapon of those who don't need to impress. It's the refuge of those who won't be provoked. It's the signature of the man who doesn't move to the rhythm of the world, but slows it down. When a woman provokes you, silence disarms her. When someone offends you, silence lays them bare. When life challenges you, silence protects you from impulsive reactions. Silence isn't empty, it's space. And in space, clarity is born. Most people can't stand silence because in silence there are no distractions. There's only the truth. And the truth, often, is scary. But the man who embraces silence becomes invulnerable because he no longer fears the truth. He knows it. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you're telling the world, I don't need you to understand to know who I am. And this is one of the purest forms of freedom. In silence, you learn that not everything deserves an answer, that not every provocation requires defense, that not every question deserves the truth, that not every absence needs to be filled. The frame teaches you not to waste energy. Silence teaches you where not to waste it. Words are like currency. He who speaks too much inflates his own value. He who speaks little creates rarity. When a man speaks little, every word he utters imprints itself on the mind of his listener. It's not the quantity that creates impact. It's the presence that accompanies the word. Silence is also a way to maintain mystery, and mystery is a form of power. He who speaks too much explains himself, and he who explains himself too much reveals himself. He who reveals himself completely loses attraction. A man with a frame always leaves a space unsaid, a part that no one can fully interpret, because in that enigma lies his strength. Silence, ultimately, is respect. Respect for oneself, for one's emotions, for the intelligence of others. Not everything needs to be clarified. Not everything needs to be expressed. Many things can simply be felt, and those who know how to feel have no need to speak. The world teaches you that to be understood, you must speak. The Stoic teaches you that to be respected, you must know when to be silent, because silence is not the absence of a voice. It is the voice that has learned to choose the right moment to speak. The frame is not a concept. It is not a theory to be understood, nor a technique to be applied. It is a lifestyle, a way of being in the world, a way of breathing, of moving, of responding to reality. You don't build the frame once and for all. You cultivate it every day, every morning when you wake up reluctantly, but do what needs to be done anyway. Every evening when you want to give in, but choose calm over distraction. Every time the world provokes you and you decide not to react, but to observe. The frame is silent discipline. It is the habit of choosing strength over pleasure, presence over escape, action instead of complaint. Being a man with a frame doesn't mean being perfect. It means being consistent. It doesn't matter if you fall. What matters is if you can get up the same way, with the same calm, without looking for blame, without making excuses. Discipline is the visible side of the frame. It's what the world sees. But beneath it lies the invisible root, direction. Without direction, discipline is just blind effort. Without discipline, direction is just a dream. Only together do they form presence. Presence is what distinguishes the scattered man from the centered man. It's the energy you feel when someone is completely where they are, not with their mind elsewhere, not with their heart in suspense, but here. A man with a frame is entirely in the present, not because he ignores the past or the future, but because he doesn't let them dominate him. The past has taught him. The future inspires him. But the present is where he acts. Every act of presence is an act of power, because in a world of distraction, concentration is domination. When you do only one thing at a time, the world bows. When you truly look at someone, they sense it. When you listen without wanting to respond, your energy expands. Frame isn't rigidity. It's disciplined fluidity. It's the ability to remain steady in movement. Like a warrior dancing in battle, he moves his body but doesn't lose his center. So is the man with frame. He adapts but doesn't bend. He changes but doesn't betray his essence. Discipline isn't a punishment. It's an act of self-love. It means telling yourself every day, I respect myself enough to do what needs to be done, even if I don't feel like it. And every time you do it, your frame strengthens. Because the frame doesn't grow through words. It grows through repeated gestures, in small, invisible choices, in the way you stand, the way you walk, the way you react to failure. Discipline doesn't make you rigid, it makes you free. Because it frees you from the hands of chance. It frees you from whim, from dependence, from confusion. Every man who loses discipline becomes a slave to his own impulses. Every man who rediscovers it becomes master of his own destiny. The frame, lived as a lifestyle, transforms everything you do, the way you work, the way you love, the way you walk in the world. Because discipline isn't just about actions, it's also about the mind. Learn not to think too much. Learn not to judge every emotion. Learn to remain still. Continuous thought is a form of escape. Presence is the cure, and presence is built with small daily practices. Breathe slowly. Observe without interpreting. Walk slowly. Eat without distractions. Truly listen. Act only when necessary. They are simple gestures, but they bring you home every day. The frame is the inner home of man, and discipline is what keeps it clean, tidy, alive. Every time you neglect your discipline, the house gets dirty. Every time you respect it, the house shines. A disciplined man isn't obsessive. He's serene. He doesn't do things out of obligation. He does them out of respect. Respect for his own potential, for time, for life. Being present doesn't mean stopping. It means moving with awareness. Doing less, but doing it better. Direction is the invisible thread that unites every gesture. It's what reminds you why you're doing it. Without a why, even discipline becomes sterile, but when you know where you're going, every act becomes a prayer. The life of a man with a frame is simple, but not empty. Full, but without excess. Strong, but never rigid. He does what he must, not what he wants. And precisely because of this, he manages to get what he wants. Discipline is the mother of freedom. Presence is the father of peace. Direction is the blood that unites them. When you live like this, you never get lost. Because even if the world changes, your center remains. And when you have a center, every movement makes sense. The frame, at that point, is no longer something you keep. It's something you are. It becomes your identity, your natural posture, your imprint on the world. In the end, it all comes down to this: calm. Not the fake calm, the kind you put on to appear in control. Not the rigid calm of those who repress themselves for fear of exploding, but true calm, the kind that comes from knowing that nothing can truly touch you. Calm is the pinnacle of male evolution. It is the summit reached by the man who has been through everything: desire, anger, fear, pain, loss, and has chosen not to become a slave to anything. There is no power greater than calm, because calm is not the absence of emotions. It is mastery over them. It is knowing that you can love without losing yourself, that you can fight without hating, that you can fail without collapsing, that you can be alone without feeling empty. The man with frames is not the man who does not feel. He is the man who feels everything, but decides when and how to respond. In his silence, the world finds balance. In his presence, others find direction. In his calm, even chaos finds form. He does not seek to change others. He changes himself, and thus changes everything around him. Because reality is not dominated by force, it is guided by energy. And calm is the most powerful energy there is. Everyone wants power, but few understand that true power is not needing to exercise it. Calm is this: a force so great it doesn't need to prove itself. The man with frames lives differently. He doesn't react to the rhythm of the world. It's the world that adapts to his rhythm. When he enters a room, the energy changes. Not because he imposes, but because he exists. Completely. Entirely. His every gesture is slow, yet full. His every word is measured, yet incisive. His every look communicates one thing: I'm in no hurry, I'm not afraid, I'm not in need. And in an age where everyone rushes, this slowness becomes magnetism. Calm is the luxury of the strong, because only those who have lived through chaos can afford to remain still. Those who have never known pain don't know what peace is. Those who have never lost control don't know what it means to find it again. Calm is the invisible trophy of those who have fought within. It's the scar you can't see, but you can feel it in every word. The man with frames wasn't born that way. He built himself, brick by brick. Silence after silence, wound after wound. He lost, He collapsed, he reacted, he made mistakes. But each time he came back, and each return deepened him. He no longer seeks approval, because he's understood that no one can give him what he already has. He no longer seeks control, because he's learned that control comes only from letting go. He no longer seeks love, because he's discovered that true love comes when you stop chasing it. Calm is not detachment, it's intimacy without fear. It's being present without possessing. It's seeing everything, feeling everything, but choosing not to react to anything that doesn't deserve your energy. This is the point where life changes. When you no longer move out of need, but out of desire. When you love not out of lack, but out of abundance. When you speak not to fill, but to illuminate. Calm transforms you into a mountain. Others are the wind. They can blow as much as they want, but you remain there, intact, immovable. The frame is that mountain, and within it, calm is the fire that keeps it alive. You no longer need anything external to feel powerful. No titles, no conquests, no attention. You just need to be there entirely, in every gesture. Every step is decisive. Every breath is full. Every look is clear. Because you are no longer trying to achieve something. You are simply living from what you have become. This is the difference between the man who reacts and the man who leads. One tries to adapt to the world. The other becomes the world he wants to live in. The man with the frame has an aura of inevitability. He doesn't fight to impose himself, but everything around him ends up adapting to him. People sense it. They know they can't manipulate him. Not because he's aggressive, but because he's immutable. Every time someone tries to destabilize him, he responds with the same calm. Not out of calculation, but because he knows no other way of existing. His silence is not empty. It is awareness. Every pause is a decision. Every absence is a message. And the more he grows, the less he feels the need to be understood. Because he who has found calm no longer needs to be understood. He simply needs to be. Calm is the point where life stops being a struggle and becomes a slow dance. You don't chase, you don't run, you don't react. You move, with grace, with rhythm, with presence. This is where Stoic philosophy stops being theory and becomes flesh. It is no longer a concept, it is your posture. The way you drink your coffee, the way you walk down the street, the way you look at the sunset. Calm becomes your way of breathing, and in that breath, life stops fighting you. It begins to follow you. The man with frames is rare, not because he is perfect, but because he has stopped fighting with himself. He no longer needs to win over others, because he has won over what agitated him inside. And that silent victory is the greatest of all. Because he has no spectators, no trophies, no applause, he has only peace, a peace that can be felt even from a distance. Those who meet him can't explain what he feels, but they feel it. It's like standing next to a mountain. You feel smaller, but also more stable, more silent, more real. The calm of the man with a frame doesn't just change him, it changes those around him. It changes the atmosphere, the pace, the words of others. He becomes a silent beacon in a world drowning in noise. He doesn't need to be noticed. The world notices him. He doesn't need to speak. It's his energy that speaks for him. He doesn't need to conquer, because what is his comes naturally. This is the destiny of the man who finds calm. Not fame, not power, not admiration, but mastery, self-mastery, of the body, of the mind, of time. When you get there, you no longer desire much. All you need to do is live with integrity, speak truthfully, walk with dignity, and everything you seek in others mysteriously begins to find you. Because calm attracts, calm builds, calm elevates. Calm is the highest form of respect for life. It's saying, I don't need it to be easy, I just need to be there, completely. Ultimately, this is the frame. Not a mask, but a presence. Not armor, but a new skin. Not a concept, but a practice. And when calm becomes your destiny, you discover the truth the Stoics have always known. The strong man is not the one who dominates others. He is the one who dominates himself. And he does it in silence, with a slow breath, with a heart as still as stone and a gaze that asks for nothing because he already has everything.